Welcome everybody, my name is Paul. I'm a country realtor and I live in the rural area of Virginia near Lexington. And today I'm going to share a story, a personal story about what it's like to live in a mobile home. For a long time in my life, I'm a retiree, I'm somewhat retired, I'm 69. And I had the usual life, I did a lot of traveling and I chose kind of the road less traveled generally in life, and I've had quite a bit of variety in travel and been to some interesting places, but typically I've lived in rural areas for a long time. And before I was married and after I got divorced, single life, I just had small places. Typically, before I was married long ago, I just rented a small apartment or a room somewhere, and I never really bought a house. Very few of my family members had bought a house at the time. And I grew up, my parents really got appointed their house when they were in their career. So basically, it wasn't really my idea to really go buy a house someday. I just kind of rented an apartment somewhere. And I've lived in some really interesting places. In addition, I've traveled a lot of places in the world and I've seen some really interesting ways that people live. And of course, nowadays with YouTube, you can see all kinds of ways that people live around the world. And it's so fascinating. And typically, for example, in India, where I have spent some time many years ago, there are people living much more densely populated situation, and some of the homes that we live in, like I'm a realtor now and I see some pretty large homes. I saw one not too long ago. It was 7,000 square feet. That's a very big house. Well, in a house like that, in a place like India, they'd probably have like 100 people living, or at least 30. Be quite a household going on there, and they'd have like gardens growing and stuff like that. So the way people live in different parts of the world is very different. And I somehow gravitated in my life. A few years ago, I moved out to this part of the country from Ohio after divorce. And I needed a place to stay, and I said, okay, my sister lives in Virginia, and I'll just go on the internet and Craigslist and see what's for rent out there. And I saw this place and says, okay, well, it's a little mobile home. I came to look at it, and the guy said, okay, well, I got people waiting I'd like to rent it to you, but, make a decision here. So I said, well, maybe I'll just stay for a little while, and, it's kind of a cool little place, I guess. And that started my adventure. So I made the deposit, and here I am about 7 years later. Now, the interesting thing, I'd never lived in a mobile home before, and when I moved here, frankly, I had like some needs, you see, so I had to leave it vacant for a while and like paint the walls and do this and that and clean. And the guy gave me a new toilet, a new stove, and a new refrigerator. So it was quite an adventure, and I had to just kind of live here, And after divorce, I just downsized for a while, and I had always lived a fairly simple life anyway. I got a lot of books, and I got guitars, and I got a lot of tools, and I got stuff. So I needed a space, I needed storage. So this place has a barn, and I was a photographer for a long time, and what photographer doesn't want a barn? Same way with a musician person. I love to play guitar just for fun, and what musician doesn't like to have a barn to play in, So I thought, well, this is pretty cool. I'll just kind of stay here for a little while and move my things here and kind of get settled after my divorce. So I never expected to live in a mobile home, but as it came by here, like I realized, geez, it's not that bad here. There's a stream down at the bottom here, and they got a lot of storage space, and they got privacy, and it's quiet, and they got cows right next to me, and it's not that bad, right? A little piece of heaven here. So then as I lived here longer, I realized, well, there's a big river in town, there's a canoeing place and kayak place there, and they have reenactments, Civil War. It's a charming little town. They got flea markets every weekend in the summertime, and lots of tourists come here, and the Appalachian Trail's nearby, and the Blue Ridge Parkway's nearby, and everything is like pretty nice here. So I realized, well, that's kind of funny because I never expected to live in a mobile home. So every single year almost since I've been here, I keep thinking, well, maybe I'll move. And then I realized, well, I'm going to do my real estate business and practice, and I've got a pretty cozy thing going on here, and all my storage and so on, and nice neighbors, so here I am. So I will share a little bit of that adventure because I made another video about encouraging people to look at getting a mobile home on its own property. I don't mean in a mobile home park. I don't live in a mobile home park. There's actually about 4 acres here. And my landlord actually is one of the richest people in the country, I found out. And he owns like 800 acres. And he said, Paul, 500 of these acres is part of this whole thing. And my big mansion is on 300 acres. And you can go on the trails, whatever. And I've been here 7 years almost. And I've barely explored any of it. So 500 acres that my landlord said I can go on. I didn't even discover the stream for like 2 years after I'd been here. I never went down there. Finally realized, hey, that's not so bad. I can swim down there and bathe. It's not very deep, but it always flows. And there's good water here and good sun. And soil's not that great, but anyway, so it's a lovely situation. But I want to encourage people to look at mobile homes in a very different way, because I've lived a lot of places, and I've lived around people who went to New York City, for example. And I knew a friend who had an apartment in New York City long ago. And that New York City apartment, my place is like at least twice as big. And plus I got the acres and the barn and all that. So I got this old cabin on here, rusty old cabin from the 1800s that's on here too. And I don't use it can't live in it, but it's storage, and I got electricity over there. So the point I'm trying to make is that if you're creative with your space, because what I did here, I took away all the mobile home paneling, and basically I just covered it. I painted. I did a lot of painting. I rearranged things. I organized it in such a way that it's very attractive. When you approach it from the outside, it's just like this tan brown thing from the 60s. It's about, I think it's 14 feet wide and maybe 60 feet long or something. It's not very big, really. But I have an office, I have a flight simulator, I have my full office. I'm a single guy, I'm just a bachelor here now. My bedroom, I sleep here, and then I have an open area. I changed the whole kitchen arrangement, and it's really honestly quite funky in a way. If you look closely at it, it's not the greatest condition. I'm probably the last person to ever live here. But the location, the place, the ambiance, the privacy, the quiet, everything else is just golden here. So that's why I've stayed here. And I realize, even if I had the money to buy, there's a lot of properties in here that I would like to buy, but at this moment I can't really do it, because what I really would like to buy is something with 30 or 40 acres and a rather large spread. But I'm in the market here. I just keep looking around. I get in this business here, meet people, and find out what's going on in the industry. And I come across properties, and one day I'll get my own ideal place. But I share this adventure with you because a lot of people look down on mobile homes. I was married to someone who had an apartment in New York City. I've been to New York City more times than I want to remember, and I've been to many, many very big cities in the United States. But I chose a rural life for a reason, and frankly, some of these mobile homes, compared to homes that I saw in India and Thailand, they're really not that bad. You can have, especially if they're on their own land. Some of the mobile homes out in the country are on land that people would die for up in Westchester, New York. They think, oh my God, look at the views. They got a pond, they got a stream, they got this, they got everything. They got recreation nearby. They're joining a forest. They got a trout stream at the bottom of the hill. Things like that. People will kill for, and so to speak, in some areas, because you can't find that around a big city. So, unfortunately, a lot of people have chosen to live in that congested area, and typically a big city will get to a point where I think now in the world, people are just saying, okay, I'm fed up with these big cities. I could work a little more, it's cheaper, it's more relaxed, it's nicer people out in the country, and pay less taxes and less traffic. So a mobile home, there's a lot of mobile homes in the countryside that I see, and there are people who want to sell them, but the banks don't want to get involved with them. But frankly, there are mobile homes I've seen for sale on a nice piece of land that someone could buy. They walk in for $75,000, $80,000, and they have a full working home with several, maybe even have a garage or a yard, a shed, or it might even have some fencing. There's a whole lot of rather well-developed properties that just happen to have a mobile home on it. Now the double wides are a different issue because they're hard to move. You can sell a single wide and someone will be happy to take it off your hands and move it somewhere, and you can build another house there. But if you get a mobile home that's on a piece of land, like this one's on 4 acres. I looked up the property value of this when it was sold years ago to my landlord. He just bought it to add to his estate, and he needed someone to rent it. Someone who would just take care of it and mow the lawn, basically. so it didn't look trashy. So you got me here, and I've been here taking care of this place, and I got the advantages of a rather large barn. I put a ramp up there at the top floor, and I put my ATV in there. There's a potting shed and a tool shed, and then there's this old cottage on the property, antique. So it's also fenced. Once a time, it's a full fence with electric because the guy had a couple of horses here. So it also has a chicken coop that I didn't build, but I don't use it. But see, this is the kind of thing that don't overlook the mobile home, because a lot of people, if you just mention the word mobile home to them, they'll start to snicker. Because, oh yeah, well, only the trashy people live there. Well, not necessarily true. Especially if you're an elderly, like my level, okay? I'm in a different industry. I'm very active working. I'm not going to retire officially, but there are people my age who are retiring and they need a nice place to live that's fairly simple. And a mobile home is low maintenance. There are issues that I'll talk about sometimes in my other videos about mobile homes. Their maintenance is so much less. There's a few caveats that, for example, the doors on a mobile home are not the same size as a standard door. So if you try to replace the door on your mobile home, you might have to make a new one or something like that. Or, for example, the plumbing. Don't even ask a plumber to go look at a mobile home, the older ones. They'll just, I'm not touching that, you know. So the newer ones have better plumbing, but some of the older ones have, if a pipe breaks under there, learn how to fix it yourself, basically. But you can sell a mobile home if you want to get rid of it on your property. There are people that have to take it. And out here in the country, honestly, there's some sights you never want to see. It was a mobile home that was abandoned like 30 years ago, and it's just sitting there. You know, it's never going to go anywhere else, so that's the way it is out here. But same way with old tractors and farm equipment. You see some of them laying around, and you know that they'll be here for a couple hundred years, probably rusting away. So mobile home life is very interesting. They're typically rectangular. There's ones now you can get with a jacuzzi and bay windows and a whole bunch of other stuff that, you know, but I'm talking about the simple ones. If you look in many parts of the world like Japan or China, anywhere there's a congested population, New York City, man, they would kill for an apartment this size. It's like 2 bedrooms, a bath. Oh my God, I got a full kitchen. What do you know? That's huge in New York City. But plus you got a yard. So people make fun of low mobile homes. I'm a realtor. That subject of mobile homes, selling mobile homes, doesn't really come up in the office very much because there's not much commission on them. It's hard to sell them because they're involved in a lot of times you have to be a cash sale or something. But you can get a hold of one of them, and for dollar per square foot, if you have to pay $150 a square foot for a real home, and you can get into a decent home for $80 a square foot, and be just for all practical purposes, a home is a home. You know, if it's clean and nice and attractive. I mean, how many stories do you need? How big a space do people need if there's 2 people just living there? See, so again, a little bit of humor about mobile homes. It's a fun place to live. I've had a lot of adventures here. I'll share a few of them here and there through some of my stories here. But take another look at them. Don't make fun of them. I'm not talking about the mobile home parks. That's a whole different story, and there's some funny stories I've seen about those things. But I'm talking about mobile homes that are on a decent piece of property that have really good land, and they're all set up as a real decent home, but they just are called a mobile home. So again, thanks for watching. I don't want to make these videos too long, and I just want to make them a little bit entertaining as well. So appreciate the like and share, and hope to see you in some of my other videos.